Okay, 100 days of Keto Chow. Today is day 21. The snowstorm is over. The sun actually just came out. It's pretty wild. We had a really heavy-duty snowstorm yesterday. Most days when I do, well, because I'm 21 days into this, most of the time when I'm doing just Keto Chow, it's not a problem. Even cooking food for my family and whatnot, it's really not a big deal. Yesterday, I came in from shoveling snow and it just smelled amazing. Like really, really good. My daughter had made low carb meatballs with Rao's marinara sauce and a bunch of cheese on top. So the kids were all sitting there and my wife was sitting there eating the stuff, and I was drinking my root beer float Keto Chow, which was good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like the root beer float, and that's why I introduced the root beer float, is because I like it and I can do that. But man, that smelled good. And then, of course, this morning when we were doing the P90 exercise workout routine, the kids were trying to figure out what to have for breakfast, and one of them opened up the thing of leftovers and started eating it. It smelled good again, but that's okay. It was kind of interesting last night doing the shoveling. On a keto diet, I have a lot more stamina than I used to way back when, which was of course 4 years ago at this point. But my back was kind of hurting doing the shoveling, but it wasn't too bad. I got home from work and there was the approach to our driveway. The snowplow had quite nicely piled up about that much snow. There's my head. In front of our driveway, and it was soaked and it was wet and it was heavy, and it was about 3 hours away from freezing solid, so it had to be taken care of. So that was interesting. Got my shoes nice and wet. Anyway, I should really put my phone on silent before I start these. Now today I want to talk a little bit about protein. When we had our meetup on Saturday, I had quite a few people ask me about getting too much protein on a keto diet, which was interesting because I had the same question seriously 4 times over the last week about, is it bad to have too much protein? And every time the question comes up, I always refer to this last year, 2018, at Low Carb Breckenridge. Dr. Benjamin Bikman gave a presentation on insulin versus glucagon and how your body reacts to eating protein depending on your metabolic state. So if you are just eating regular food, when you eat protein, so there's specific amino acids that do it, your body's response to that is to release insulin, and yeah, that's what you do. When you are in either a fasted state or a fasting mimicking state, a ketogenic diet, your body does not release insulin in response to a protein intake. And he goes into a lot greater detail. I'll have the link in the blog post that I do of this, as well as when I post this to YouTube, I'll have it there as well. If you're watching this on Instagram, you'll have to go to my blog to get the link, or just Google Bikman Breckenridge, and it's usually the top result. So when you are in a fasted state, your body is making glucose via gluconeogenesis. Say that 3 times real fast. It's just making glucose out of something, because your body can make glucose, otherwise you wouldn't be able to fast for more than about 18 hours. When your body is producing glucose, if you were to eat something that didn't have glucose in it, like protein, and your body were to release insulin, it would drive down your blood glucose without something coming in to push the blood glucose back up. You release insulin to take care of an overage of blood glucose, But when you're eating insulin in a fasted eating protein in a fasted state, there's not glucose coming in, at least not very much, not enough to make a difference, coming in with that to push your blood glucose up. And so because it's not pushing it up, were you to release insulin, it would put you into a hypoglycemic state. So you've got nice level glucose, insulin pushes it down. You don't want that. If your blood glucose gets too low, you can actually pass out unless you're on really, really, really high ketones. There's a study that was done that could not be done today where they took psychiatric ward patients and got them into a fasted state and then gave them insulin to see what would happen. And it got their blood glucose, I think it was down into like 20s or something like that. And although they had hypoglycemia, they were asymptomatic, which means that they were not showing signs of having, like, well, frankly, quite dangerous levels of glucose. Most people who get that low are they just go into a coma. These guys were fine. Anyway, we're not talking about that. So we're talking about eating protein and you having an insulin response. On top of that, so in the bad old days when I first started a keto diet, I used to think that if you ate too much protein, it would get turned into glucose via gluconeogenesis, and that would stop ketogenesis and, as they say, kick you out of ketosis. Once again, ketosis is burning ketones. If you have ketones present in your blood, you will burn them. A lot of people confuse ketosis, burning ketones, with ketogenesis, which is making ketones. I don't care about burning ketones, I care about making them. And so that's why it's a ketogenic diet. And that's why you'll see the exogenous ketones saying that it will put you into a state of ketosis within 30 minutes. Yes, you drink ketones, you'll start burning them. But we're not talking about burning them, we're talking about making them. Anyway. Yeah, so what was I? Oh yes, gluconeogenesis. So I used to think that if you ate really, really, really a lot of meat, for instance, while you were doing a ketogenic diet, that it would raise your blood glucose and stop ketogenesis, and that would be a bad thing. Then I saw Dr. Bikman's presentation and learned more about glucagon and insulin and the whole deal. So now I don't fear eating the 16-ounce prime rib, or the 20-ounce prime rib for that matter, if I fasted all day. I mean, why not? So don't be too concerned about eating too much protein. Generally speaking, your body is going to self-regulate if you are eating foods aside from just Keto Chow 3 meals a day like I'm doing. If you do need more protein and you are, let's say you have your jaw wired shut, or you're a crazy person and you're doing 100 days of just Keto Chow. If you do need more protein, the best way to get that into Keto Chow is either add unflavored protein powder to Keto Chow, add flavored protein powder to Keto Chow, have a fourth meal as a snack that's a protein drink without anything else in it just to get you extra protein, or eat a steak. Most people go for the eat a steak option. Of course, that's not eating just 3 meals of Keto Chow, so it depends on what you're doing. Once again, if you're crazy and like me and you're doing an experiment, then yeah, you would probably just add some more protein to Keto Chow. I haven't noticed that I need more protein just yet, so I'm just keeping it with the standard amount. If you did have your jaw wired shut, you'd probably go for the protein drink. If you're a regular person, eating a steak is a really good idea for the extra iron anyway. So, and it's delicious. And the amount of protein that you should be eating a day, there's a lot of discussion as to how much is enough and how much is too much. Our friend Nicole Racine, she's a nurse. She actually presented at KetoCon in 2017 and at Low Carb Breckenridge in 2018. When we saw her at Breckenridge, she had recently upped her protein intake a lot, like really a lot. And she's very, very thin, and has actually had problems with her weight being too low in the past. And when she upped her protein intake a lot, and I think she was going, normally it's recommended between 1 and 1.5 grams of protein for each kilogram of lean body weight. And she was doing, I think it might have been 4 or 5 grams. It was a lot. But she reported that since doing that, her hair was getting thicker. It wasn't falling out like it was before, and she was just doing a lot better. So, and somebody else asked me, what's my, this was another topic of discussion at the meetup, what type of protein do I prefer? And everything that I've seen says that the best protein you can have is ruminant animal flesh. Red meat, beef, lamb, goat, especially the beef. Peter Ballerstedt, he gives a lot of talks about ruminants and the positive role they have on the environment and on soil health and on health in general. So I think it's interesting how vilified red meat has become. Even in the keto community, you'll have people who say that they're trying to limit their red meat. I usually ask them if they're doing it for a health reason, like that they're allergic to it, because I have a friend who, his wife was bitten by a tick, and now she cannot eat red meat. She's quite literally allergic to it, to the proteins in it. And so I usually ask them if it's for an allergy reason or if it's a philosophical reason. If it's for an allergy reason, that's that's the end of that. If it's a philosophical reason, I think people need to reevaluate the information that they're taking in and why they think that red meat is bad. A lot of that goes back to Kellogg and his sanitarium and the cornflakes he invented and bland food and all of that. Gary Fettke has some really interesting information about the basis of the whole healthy grains that everyone thinks and vegetarianism. So anyway, me personally, I try to get as much red meat when I'm not doing a crazy experiment, and I try to get as much saturated fat as I possibly can. It's our ancestral diet, so that's what works for me. Anyway, well, this went on a bit longer than I expected. So yeah, protein, eat it. Don't fear it. And yeah, anyway, I'll see you on, what is it, day 22, I think? Dang it, my watch is, it's just telling me my notifications. What is today? 22nd. Yeah, so today's 21, tomorrow's 22. So I'll see you on day 22. Catch you later.